In this video, we're going to talk about extending the scale, and we're going to talk about chord extensions, and that's ninths, elevenths, and thirteenths. Now, this is a subject that intimidates a lot of musicians, especially musicians that are beginners to theory, because they'll open a chord chart and they'll see a chord symbol that looks like this: A major 7, sharp 11, and they'll say to themselves, "Oh my God." I don't know how to figure this out. What is a sharp 11? And they'll just freak out. And generally, a lot of musicians won't make it past the point of really figuring this out. They'll just sort of hang out in the triad and seventh category without exploring ninths and elevenths and thirteenths. Because I think, well, this is really the realm of jazz, and I don't really want to deal with this. But you should. And the reason is because ninths and elevenths and thirteenths are really cool. When you add a ninth or an 11th or a 13th to a chord, it just adds an extra flavor or some more color to chords that would normally just otherwise be sort of bland triads or your kind of normal run-of-the-mill seventh chords. But the question is, how do you do it? How do you take a chord symbol like this and figure out what are the notes that you're supposed to play? And so I'm going to answer that in the following way. First, let's look at an A major 7 chord. Well, the A major 7 chord has the following notes in it. It's got the root, has the 1 of the scale, the A major scale. It has a third, which is the 3 of the A major scale. It has a fifth, which is the 5 of the A major scale. And it has a 7, which is as a seventh, which is the 7 of the A major scale, and it lines up perfectly, as you would expect, because it's the A major 7 chord, and so it lines up perfectly with the 1, 3, 5, and 7 of the A major scale. And now I'm going to say to you, well, what if I want to add another extension? And remember, by the way, that chords are built by stacking thirds, and so from the root to the third, that's a third. From the third to the fifth, that's a third. From the fifth to the seventh, that's another third. The reason we don't go from the root to the second is because that's not a third. That's a second. Same deal from the third to the fourth. That's not a third. That's a minor second. So I want to add some extra thirds out here. And so one way I could do it is I could just copy and paste my major scale, because it does kind of go in both directions. The piano is very large. And I could say, all right, great. Well, let me tack on another third on top of the sevenths. I'll go 1, 2, skip the 1, go to the 2, and I'll call this the second. But I don't like that, because the second is 2 is smaller than 7, and it doesn't make sense for me to go 1, 3, 5, 7, and then circle back to 2. And so instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 1 here, and I'm going to call that 8. I'm just going to start counting up from 7 to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Simple enough. Now, because this is 9, I can call this the 9th, and I can call this the 11th, and I can call this the 13th. And there I've done it. From the 7th, I went a third, and I got to the 9th. From the 9th, I went another third, I got to the 11th. And from the 11th, I went another third, and I got myself to the 13th. All right, cool. So let's clean this up a little bit. The 8, do I ever care about the 8? Like, would I ever say, hey, Josh, play the 8th? Or I would like for this chord to have an 8th. No, I wouldn't, because the 8 is the same as the 1. And so I've already covered the 1 by the root over here, and so I wouldn't ever call it the 8th. I wouldn't need that. And would I ever say that a chord wants a 10th? Like, would I ever say A major 10? And the answer is no, I wouldn't. There's no such thing as a 10th. And the reason is because the 10th is the same thing as the third. I've already got a third over here, and so that's already covered. What I don't have is a second in the chord, because, and pardon me if this is too oversimplistic, but I just want to make this point really clear. By building chords by stacking thirds, I skip over the 2 and I skip over the 4, and I skip over the 6. And so by adding them over here in the top, I can add them in the form of the 9th and the 11th and the 13th. And so, of course, I don't care about the 12th because that's the same as the 5. Already got that covered. And I don't care about the 7, or I'm sorry, I don't care about the 14 because the 14 is the same as the 7. I've already got that covered. And so I don't care about that. So, very nice. Here we have our root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. And if I were to play all of these notes, then what I'd be playing is not actually an A major 7th, I'd be playing an A major 13th chord. In fact, these are the notes in the A major 13th chord. Let me get this out of the way for a minute. So the notes in the A major 13th chord are A, C sharp, E, G sharp, B, D, and F sharp. And as a rule of thumb, anytime you see a big number like this, like 13 or 11 or whatever, what you do is you assume that you're playing all of the notes from the root up to and through that. So when I see the note, when I see A major 13, I know that I'm playing the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, the 11th, and the 13th. If this said A major 9, well, then I know that I'd be only playing these notes up through the 9th, and I wouldn't play the 11th or 13th. But if it had the 11th, A major 11, then of course I'd be playing all of these notes. Okay. One other thing to say about the A major 13th before we move on is the A major 13th, because it contains the 9 and the 11 and the 13, and the 9 is the same as the 2, so I could take my B and I could place it here. So in fact, let me just go ahead and do that. So here's my B and put over here. I could take my 11th and I could put it here. Here's my D. And I could take my 13th and I could put it here. So in other words, an A major 13th actually has every single note in the A major scale. Count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Every single note in the A major scale is accounted for in the A major 13th. Now practically, if I'm playing the piano, I'm not going to play an A major 13th chord in this, I don't know what you'd call it, orientation. I wouldn't play it as compressed as this. I wouldn't just line them up and sort of slam my hand down on all the notes in sequence like this. I would want to spread them out like this so that they each have room to breathe. In fact, I'd probably spread them out even further. Like I'd take my left hand, I'd play the A and the E and the G sharp down and like way down on the left, and then I'd take the C sharp and the B and the D and the F sharp and I'd play them all the way up here with my right hand. So I'd really spread it out. When you have, and that's a whole topic called voicings, which actually we're not even going to get into this course, but the concept is that there are different ways of playing the A major 13th. Like, you know, this compression is a particular voicing of the A major 13th, and this slightly more spread out version is another voicing of the A major 13th. It's playing the same exact notes. It's just where on the piano do I put them? Do I put them all the way over here? Do I put them all crunched together? Do I spread them out among my left and right hand? That's voicings. Anyway, so here we are. The A major 13th has all of these notes. Now, remember I asked about the A major 7 sharp 11. And so what do I do about this chord? Well, remember that previously I had names for all the notes that were in between. I called this the flat 2, I called this the flat 2 or sharp, sharp 2 or flat 3. And so the same can be said for all these other notes. This could be a flat 9. This could be a sharp 9. This could be a sharp 11. This could be a flat 13, and this could also be a sharp 13. And in fact, why don't I just do what I did before and make them yellow. So the A major 7 sharp 11, I have this 11 here, which means I know I'm playing root 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th. I'm not playing a 13th. So this is my bass. But So A major 7, I'm not going to touch this. I'm definitely playing these 4 notes. There is nothing altering my 9. So for instance, like, let's say there had been a sharp 9 here. Then I would know, oh, well, I'm going to take this 9. I'm going to not play the 9. I'm going to play the sharp 9. But I don't have that. And so I'm not going to deal with that right now. But for the sharp 11, so for the sharp 11, there's nothing, it doesn't say anything about the 9, so I'm just going to play a normal 9. And I'm going to take this 11, and I'm going to make it a sharp 11. And so I'm going to be playing D sharp. So the notes in A major 7, sharp 11 are A, C sharp, E, G sharp, B, and D sharp. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Let's look at another one. A minor 7, flat 9. Okay, and I'm going to take this. I'm going to group them. A minor 7, flat 9. Well, for the A minor 7, flat 9, I'm going to remember that I'm playing the root, which is A. It's a minor, and so I'm not playing the 3. I'm going to play a flat 3, which is C. I am playing a 5. And I'm not playing a 7. I'm going to be playing a flat 7. And so that is G. So far I have A, C, E, G. That's my A minor 7, and that's the bass. And now I'm going to add a flat 9. And so here's my 9, which would be B, but now I'm going to play a B flat instead because it says flat 9. And I'm not going to play 11 or 13 because the highest number in this chord symbol is 9. And so I know that all I'm playing is the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I hope this is becoming pretty clear. Once you lay out the major scale like this, it really is quite simple. Let's go through a few more examples just to really make this clear. So, okay, wow, big chord symbol. A major 7, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13. Jeez. Okay, well, let's go ahead and write them all out. So I'm going to have, it's an A major 7 as a bass, so I'm going to have the 1, 3, the 5, the 7. And then it says I'm going to have a flat 9. So here's my flat 9, not a 9. I'm going to have a sharp 11, not an 11. And I'm going to have a flat 13, not a 13. And so if I go in and just substitute these notes in, I know that I'm going to have an A. I'm going to have a C sharp. My 5 is an E. My 7 is a G sharp. My flat 9 is a B flat. My sharp 11 is a D sharp. And my flat 13 is an F. And so here are all the notes in the A major 7, flat 9, sharp 11, flat 13 chord. Bam. There it is. All right, let's do another one. A flat minor 7, flat 9. Okay, we have now moved out of the A major scale. And so let's, I'm going to group this and do that. All right. What I'd like to do is I want to insert another one of these here, and I want to take an A flat and put it here. And so now I want to take this entire pattern, I want to move it here, and this is my A flat major scale. Everybody agree with that? We've got the A flat is the 1, B flat is 2, C is 3, D flat is 4, E flat is 5, F is 6, G is 7, and then A flat, of course, would be 1. And now, if I were to continue up going to the 9 would be B flat because it's the same as the 2, the 11 is the D flat, same as the 4, the 13 is the F, same as the 6. So I have A flat minor 7. I know that, and with a flat 9. So A flat minor 7, I know I'm going to have a 1. I'm going to have a flat 3. I'm going to have a 5. And I'm going to have a flat 7 because the minor 7 chord has a 1, a flat 3, a 5, and a flat 7. And then I'm going to tack onto that a flat 9. Okay, so let's check it out. 1 is going to be A flat. Flat 3, actually, you know what? I'm going to write it here just to be instructive about something else after this. All right, so A flat, I'm going to have myself a B here. The 5 is going to be an E flat. The flat 7 is going to be a G flat. Flat 9 is going to be an A. Okay. Now let me ask you a question. What if this had said sharp 9? Well, it's very simple. I would have just taken this over here. Instead of a flat 9, I'm going to play a sharp 9. And of course my sharp 9 is a B. But wait a minute, I've got a problem. Because the sharp 9 is the same as the flat 3. Why is that? Because the 9 is the same as the 2. And if I sharp the 2, that's the same as the flat 3. And so you might ask the question, well, what do I do if I see this chord symbol? The answer is you won't see this chord symbol. This chord symbol would never exist because the flat from the flat 3 already takes care of this quote-unquote sharp 9. So you just basically, when you're playing a minor 7 chord, the sharp 9 isn't available to anymore because that note is already taken up by the flat 3 that you played for your third. So I hope that makes sense. So there's a couple of other conflicts like that. So for instance, like if I were playing a chord that had a sharp 5, so the sharp 5 would be here. Like if I were playing an augmented chord, and the augmented chord had the sharp 5. Well, the sharp 5 is the same as the flat 6, and 6 is the same as 13. And so if I were playing an augmented chord, then I would never see this A flat augmented 7 flat 13. I would never see this because the flat 13 would be the same thing as the sharp 5, which is taken care of by the augmented thing. So basically, if you're looking at a chord chart, you're just not going to see any of those kinds of conflicts. So anytime you see like a sharp 9 or a flat 9 or whatever, the person who's written it, if they've done their job correctly, then they're not going to create those conflicts. So you're now going to see this sharp 9. You could see a flat 9, and the flat 9 here, of course, would be A. All right. Let's do one more example. F minor 7 with a sharp 13. Okay, F minor 7 with a sharp 13. All right, so why don't we take our major scale formula and we'll put it here. And this is the F major scale, and I want to play the F minor sharp 13, and I'm going to look at it in relationship to the F major scale. Oh, and I ran out of piano. Let's solve that problem. All right, cool. So I've got more piano. F minor 7 sharp 13. So the F minor 7 is going to have a 1, it's going to have a flat 3, it's going to have a 5, and it's going to have a flat 7. That's my bass, which is a F minor 7 chord. Now because it says sharp 13, I know that I'm also going to have to play a 9th and an 11th. There is nothing to say what the 9th and 11th is. It's like it doesn't say flat 9, it doesn't say sharp 9, and that means I'm going to assume it's a normal 9. And the same is true for the 11, so I'm assuming it's a normal 9, normal 11. And then I'm going over to the 13, and it's going to have to be, oops, pardon me, I'm going to go ahead and just make this a little smaller. All right, there we go. So now I can see everything together. So I need my 13 to be a sharp 13, and so that is going to be right there. And what are those notes? So we've got F, we've got A flat, we've got C, we've got E flat, we've got G, we've got B flat, and we've got E flat. Uh-oh, interesting. Looks like this is one of those, looks like I didn't do my job right. So this is one of those conflicts that you, every once in a while, if the person writing the chord symbol hasn't done their job, they won't realize. And so this is wrong. F minor 7 sharp 13 is a chord that actually doesn't exist. Why? Because this flat 7 is the same thing as this sharp 13. I'm going to retroactively change that. What if it said flat 13? So this was flat 13. So obviously that's not an E flat. And this is going to go here, and this is a D flat. Do we have any conflicts here with a D flat? Nope. So the chords are this is the full chord, and the notes are F, A flat, C, E flat, G, B flat, and D flat. That would be all the notes in my F minor 7 flat 13. Okay. I know this is a little tedious, but it's just this is a concept that I think requires a lot of examples just to get really comfortable with. So I'm going to go ahead and go through 2 more examples. If you want to skip through them, go ahead. But I recommend that you just kind of hang tight and hang for these. So here we go. Let's look at, oh, that's right. Okay, G11. There's a thing that is important to say in this space of like looking at chords that extend past 7. And so we're looking at a G11, and so I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it to G. All right, and so I want a G11 chord. Now, G11, you would think, I've been saying that, oh, well, because it says 11, it doesn't say 9. I'm assuming that I'm going to have to play a 9, and so because it doesn't say 9, I'm going to assume that that's a normal 9, and that's true for 9s. But it's not true for 7s, so when there's nothing saying anything about the 7, I don't actually assume it's a 7, I assume it's a flat 7, and that's just kind of a weird quirk of these things. So G11 assumes a flat 7. Why? It's a dominant 7, so basically I'm assuming that this is a dominant 7. Why? Because the actual, if this were a G major 11, then you would see it written like this. Or you might see it written with the delta symbol, which I think I've gone down here. Yeah, you would see it written like this. So this and this are the same. This assumes a dominant 7th. And God, that is just a really important catch. So watch out for that. Let's go ahead and figure out, let's do both of these. So let's start with the G11. And so the G11 chord is going to have a 1, a 3, a 5, and a flat 7 because the G11 has a dominant 7 bass. And now it's going to have a normal 9, and it's going to have a normal 11. Great. And so the notes are G, B, D, that's my G major triad, F, now this is my G dominant 7th chord, plus an A, and plus a C. All right, those are the notes in the G11 chord. Cool. What about the G major 11? I'm going to come down here for this. So the G major 11 is very similar, but it has a 1, a 3, a 5, a normal 7, a normal 9, and then an 11 here. Okay, and make that 14. So what are the notes here? We've got G, we've got B, D, we've got F sharp, that's my major 7. We've got A, which is the 9, and then we've got C, which is the 11. Now, one last interesting quirk about this, and this is really advanced stuff. Like you'll see these every once in a while. Especially if you're like just starting learning theory, it's good to know. I'm going to tell you anyway, just because you might run across this kind of a thing. Whenever you see G major, whenever you see a major chord, it's a fair assumption to make that the 11 is actually going to be a sharp 11. Sometimes they won't write it, but just play that. Play these notes together in this order, and then play it with, actually here, let me write it differently. So play it like that, as it's written, and now play the sharp 11 version, pardon me. Play it like this, where this is now a C sharp. And I just bet you're going to find that this one sounds a little bit nicer. Why is that? The long answer to that is beyond the scope of this video, but kind of, it doesn't matter. Just trust your ear. And if you like the sound of this one, then it's kind of okay. Basically, when you get up into extension chords like this, you know, the truth of the matter is, like, jazz is music that is seasoned to taste. It's kind of like, how much salt do you like on your chicken? Or do you like your 11s to be sharp, or do you like your 11s to be normal? It's sort of like that when you get into this kind of jazz, because it's very much about personal taste. So anyway, we're getting into a very technical realm here. I know it's annoying to say things like, well, when you see this, you have to assume that, and when you see this, you have to assume this flat 7, and there's just a couple of those little hiccups that you could possibly run into, but otherwise, deciphering these chord symbols is mostly straightforward. So the ones, really just the ones to look out for are a letter that has no ornamentation and just a big number like 11 or 13. You're going to assume that the 7 is flat because it's a dominant 7. Unless it specifies that it's a major chord. If it's a major chord, then and only then can you assume that the 7 is major. As for the sharp 11 business, I would just say use your personal taste. So now let's just take a step back and think about what we've accomplished here. So what we've done is we have now looked at the most complicated chord symbols that you're really ever going to see, and you should be able to approach any chord chart now with a level of fearlessness, because you know exactly what the formula is. So you see a chord symbol, you come here to your major scale formula, you can write it out all the way up to 13, and includes these funny notes. By the way, there's an official name for these funny notes. They're called accidentals. You have the actual scale degrees, and then you have the accidentals. So you have your sharps and flats that are not part of the scale. And then once you've gotten these written out, then deciphering what all the notes are in any particular chord symbol is incredibly easy.